Hey UK, how you doing? 'Cause from the outside, looks like you're doing not all that well. G'day viewers, how are you? Made it to the end of another week. No small feat. Congratulations to you. It's been harder for some than others. And hey, now the YouTube walkout is over. I'm doing a weekend edition of TFU. And wow, talk about totally fucked up. The big news this week, to most people, will be the UK election. What's weird to me about this? Well, there are a number of things that are weird to me about this. But a big one that's weird to me is the result. Is the result everybody predicted? All the pundits had been saying the Tories would win with an increased majority. Boris Johnson clearly thought he would win a majority in an election because he pushed so hard for it. And there was a consensus that there's just something about Jeremy Corbyn. Maybe it's the years of horrific lies that the media told about him. It means people feel like they can't trust him and Labour can't get elected with him as leader. Turns out the Tories got a great big majority. And as I said, although it was the result everybody was predicting, it still feels harsh and cruel and awful if you're not a huge supporter of Boris Johnson. And as an outside observer, and I know some inside observers think this too, it is absolutely surreal that having watched Johnson and his party lie, cheat, evade scrutiny, behave contemptibly to the public, they get elected with a majority. It's like nothing matters if you appeal to people's primal fears. And that's what we seem to be seeing. One of the better headlines I saw declared this as a major victory for the bullshit industrial complex, because just the never-ending lies of the Tories, which they were never held accountable for, and the overwhelming negative bias of the media to Jeremy Corbyn. And I'm not just saying like Murdoch media, although I'm always singling them out for being absolute garbage. This was pretty much all the media, including the BBC, including the small L liberal The Guardian, just hated Corbyn. And there's a number of things you can draw from that. Maybe they're right. Maybe Jeremy Corbyn is an evil commie who would have destroyed the world. Or maybe these people, no matter what progressive or conservative stance they preach, are really all just part of the power structure, and Corbyn threatened that power structure, so the elite banded together to oppose him quite fiercely. And he predictably resigned as soon as the result was confirmed. I have no idea who's going to end up leading Labour in Britain, or if they'll be able to turn things around. I'll tell you a few things I will predict, though. You're going to see an incredibly strong push for Scottish independence. Another referendum saying Scotland does not want to be part of the United Kingdom. They want to be a sovereign country, because the Scottish Nationalist Party had an almost complete sweep of the seats in Scotland, and they are very opposed to the Tories. They are very opposed to Brexit. They want to stay in the European Union. So without doubt, you will get a very strong push for an independent Scotland. Incredibly likely, you will get a very strong push for a united Ireland, and that's going to be the Troubles all over again. And slightly further down the scale, but also quite likely, is some feistiness from Wales as well. So in the short term, Johnson may have won the election. He may have won his Brexit, although that still remains to be seen, because the previous Tory administration couldn't pass any of their Brexit plans because Tories voted against them, including Johnson voted against the then sitting Prime Minister. So who knows if this majority means his view will be pushed unanimously. I think it will be. I think now we go straight to a Johnson version of Brexit, possibly a hard Brexit with possibly terrible, terrible economic repercussions that will start in the UK and then spread through Europe and probably just destabilise the entire world economy, which is a fun thing to look forward to. So Johnson may have won his election, he may have won his Brexit, and he may lose the United Kingdom. He may end up being Prime Minister of the smallest version of England that has existed for, I don't know, 1,000 years. I'm not that good on history. But yes, his initial success may lead to a really cataclysmic failure. Who knows? But also what happens there is clearly going to be picked up in the US in the lead up to the presidential election. The very obvious thing to do is to say Bernie Sanders is analogous to Corbyn, and so therefore he's unelectable, and the establishment of the Democratic Party, I mean, obviously the Republicans oppose him, but the establishment of the Democratic Party definitely oppose him, and the overwhelming majority of the media establishment oppose him, and so they're clearly going to use this tactic to go against Sanders, and I think there's a better than even chance it will work. Who knows? We'll wait and see. You know, I actually had a brainwave, like they keep saying Biden is the front runner. Historically, anyone who's been the front runner at this point in a nomination race has disappeared by the end. They've not won the nomination. Biden may well buck that trend, but I had this vision. If he suddenly announces a VP, if he announced someone like Kamala Harris, who the establishment love, Cory Booker, who suddenly it's not just an old white guy, it's old white guy with much younger person of colour on the ticket. I think if he did that, he would sweep his main competitors, being Warren and Sanders, away. If he did that, they would be gone. That's my prediction. If he and his campaign are smart enough to do that, and with a great big asterisk, what do I know? Absolutely nothing. I would not put a lot of faith in anything I say. Double asterisk, don't put any faith in anyone who believes they can predict what's going to happen. That's just an idea I had. I'm not declaring that to be a truth. The more definitely someone declares that they know exactly what's going to happen, the less you should pay attention to them. The world is so volatile, the least likely things are quite capable of happening. So let's just wait and see. Although what we can be sure of is really concerted attacks against Bernie Sanders, including an absolutely bizarre one for the right, because they saw that the really unfounded attacks on Corbyn saying anti-Semitism were incredibly effective, despite the fact they defied belief, when so many of the Tories were openly anti-Semitic, but it clearly worked. I actually saw a right-wing outlet pushing that Bernie Sanders, Bernie the Jewish man Sanders, has an anti-Semitic campaign. See, the fact that these lies, smears, and absolute bullshit lines are never challenged. People are never held accountable for them. Whether it's a politician, whether it's a media outlet, whether it's a talking head online or in the broadcast media, when they do this outrageous, evil shit, they never suffer any repercussions. Every other day, Trump or one of his cronies does something that in any other time would have absolutely ended the career of a politician, let alone a president. Like, going, ooh, Trump's up for impeachment, finally. But just like, the situation is so bad, he was fined millions of dollars for charity fraud, and that doesn't even register. I mean, seriously, when in history would a US president being involved in charity fraud not have ended him? Today, Trump is like the worst person on the planet, and none of it matters. And they even do weird, stupid shit. And I suspect sometimes on purpose. Like in this last week, someone campaigning for Trump did a little video superimposing Trump's head on Thanos from the Marvel Avengers movies, saying the Thanos line, "I'm inevitable, like a big strong, you can't stop me." Now, the layers of fuckness in that really take a little bit of time to take apart. Not least, Thanos is the bad guy? Thanos is a genocidal psychopath. Thanos literally killed half of all life in the universe because he thought it was a good idea. And that's bad enough that you pick someone like that to emulate. But even just on the that's just on the evil side. On the stupid side, the imagery they use is just before Thanos is defeated. Like, Thanos' hubris is so overwhelming he doesn't conceive of him being possible to be defeated. I am inevitable, and he's defeated. So Thanos is not just evil and genocidal, he's also the loser. And that's who Trump and his crew find aspirational, which I think tells you everything you need to know. And again, I can also tell with this crowd, pointing this out to them is pointless. Saying you're stupid or you're evil is pointless, because then they just go, ho, 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 triggered the libs. I read a quite interesting article with someone looking at what's happening, and they used big words that I'm probably going to pronounce wrong. It's a branch of philosophy, psychology called epistemology, and it's basically the understanding of what is true. It's how we come to understand what is real. It's the shared knowledge of this is a true thing, this is a false thing. And what we are clearly seeing in the world is that doesn't exist anymore. Stuff has become so tribalized that the concept of an objective truth no longer matters. What is now true is what my group says is true. And if you present contrary evidence, and I mean evidence that what this group says is not correct, you are the enemy. You are not the bringer of truth. You are the evil enemy. The writer called this tribal epistemology. It's basically adherence to the tribe becomes much more important than understanding of the truth. And in fact, objective understanding of truth is the enemy of the group. It's absolutely a wild time to be alive. I'm sure this is not the only time in human history this has happened. But yeah, just when we think we're enlightened and you get mainstream voices aggressively fighting against objective truths, supported by mountains of evidence, because it doesn't agree with their political views or their social views, it's absolutely mind-boggling. And hey, speaking of which, Australia's on fire. We are getting a foreshadowing of the Mad Max hellscape we are all plummeting towards because of the climate emergency, and our government has officially been rated at the worst in the world at dealing with it. We all knew that, but an independent body actually had a rating system and said, yep, Australia's the worst. And Prime Minister Scummo said, I don't think that's legitimate. Like, dude, they are fucking scientists assessing evidence. You're a buffhead with a marketing degree who is so far out of his depth, it isn't funny. It's like, science, statistics, measurements, that's not credible. But no, he believes in the worst, most deranged Pentecostal religious fantasies that well over 90% of Christians and other faiths reject. He's on the lunatic fringe of the Christianity scale. And speaking of which, how is he addressing these catastrophic fires that have been burning out of control for, just for a month or so? So most of New South Wales, including the city of Sydney, is literally choking on smoke. The amount of pollution in the air is more than 10 times higher than what's regarded as dangerous. It's like, some of the estimates is it's like smoking a pack or two of cigarettes a day, every day. I'm not joking. School kids are being told you can't go outside during the school day and run around and play Because you will breathe too much. You will breathe too much, and the air is so bad that will have serious negative health consequences. And it's become so thick that fire alarms smoke alarms have been going off in office buildings in Sydney just because of the amount of smoke in the air. But Scummo doesn't see anything wrong with it. His big push this last week is to get his religious discrimination bill up. Yes, that is the number one goal for our Prime Minister. If you haven't heard about this, it's basically, he's decided, you know who's really oppressed in this world? Religious people who can't vilify people that they don't like. You know what? On the grounds of religion, you should be able to be the worst, most vile scumfuck piece of filth on the planet because of your deeply held religious beliefs. And it's absolutely bizarre that someone can be this detached from reality that they push it. But it looks like it's going ahead. We'll see if it actually gets to law. But I've seen some very interesting deconstructions of it. Like, to me, the most obvious ones was like the Israel Folau clause that someone is allowed to publicly say, according to their deeply held religious convictions, someone else is a dirty sinner who will be tortured for eternity, and they can't suffer any negative consequences because of that. That was an obvious one. And another obvious but much worse one was medical practitioners being allowed to discriminate, as in not provide contraception, not provide abortion care, not provide gender transition support, which is sick and fucked, because I kind of think, like, if you are in a profession that is supposed to be helping people, but you were going to declare that person's icky, I don't want to give them medical help, fuck off and get another job, you piece of shit. But those are the most obvious ones, and I've seen some others picked out that I hadn't considered, and it really did my head in, like, particularly in the workplace. Like, a boss could say to an employee, without fear of being charged with discrimination, that person is bad and wrong because of their deeply held religious beliefs. The obvious examples is telling a gay person or a trans person they're going to hell. Telling a trans person that there's no such thing as being transgender. But it goes much beyond that. And then you read the Bible. If someone says, biblically, you, a woman, should not be in the workplace. You should be subordinate to a man. You should stay in a home. You are committing a sin by not being at home raising a family. Now, there's this great big disclaimer. Oh, you're not allowed to do it in a mean way. You can't actually vilify or inspire hatred against people. No, you can just tell people they are literally less than human, that they do not deserve to live, and that they do deserve to be tortured for all eternity. Just don't say it in a mean way, okay? Say it in a nice way. I'm just saying, this would be like the definition of a hostile workplace. Having no defense against people putting up posters basically saying gay people are going to hell, unmarried mothers are going to hell, just women in the workplace going to hell. Anyone who doesn't conform to this narrow stricture is going to hell. In what world? Well, I know in what world. It's like, in the world of the past, that was perfectly acceptable. Just, we got beyond that and thought, Jesus, maybe you shouldn't be a complete fucking piece of shit to people. Maybe people should be able to determine their own life if they're not hurting anyone else, and you shouldn't fucking harass them for it. But now, this government wants to put it into law. Oh yes, you can absolutely tell people they're shit, they're less than human, they don't deserve any rights, they deserve eternal, unending, painful torture because of your deeply held religious beliefs. Well, my deeply held beliefs are that if you go along with this, you are the worst fucking garbage on the planet, and I appear to know your religion better than you, because there is no religion that actually says you can do this shit and not actually be punished for it. And the one other thing, any religious person, and this is mainly Christian people because they think they're untouchable, but any religious person who thinks this is a good idea, so if it is my deeply held belief, you shouldn't be able to discriminate against me. I'm not going to discriminate against you, and in fact, I think somebody actively discriminating against you because of your private beliefs is wrong. Someone saying, I'm not going to hire any Christians, that's wrong. If the person is the right person for the job and works well in the environment, you absolutely should ignore the fact they're a devout fundamentalist Christian, or a Jewish person, or a Muslim person, or a Hindu, or any other religion or lack thereof. It should be about the person, their ability to do the work, their ability to be part of the workforce without fucking things up for other people. That's how you should decide who you hire, not because of their faith or lack thereof. But you get these Christians going, I should be able to do this. How blinkered do you have to be to not see, no matter what your beliefs are, no matter how much you think you're right, there are other faiths and religions that believe things that you find utterly reprehensible, usually rightly. And this is not just Christian versus Jew versus Muslim versus Hindu or whatever. This is Christian v. Christian, the different sects in Christianity, the different sects in Islam, the different sects in all the religions. They sometimes hate each other more, and they are more divergent in some core views than the actual different faiths. So if you place in a law that you think protects you, it also protects basically someone you think is the worst person on the planet. And you might be right, because anyone who says that absolutely vile, disgusting things are not preached in the name of some religion or other is a fucking liar and should not be paid attention to. And anybody who thinks that because it protects them, it's good, without thinking of what else it protects, is either a moron or a fascist. That's the other thing. The Christo-fascists who go like, oh yes, I'm saying it applies to everyone, but it doesn't really. Don't worry. When push comes to shove, if I don't agree with your religion, you're fucked. And that's the future we're facing.